New economy system, new planetary types, new resources. Today we're going to be talking about Update 2.2 Guin right here in Dev Diary 120. Now it's been quite a while since we did one of these as the developers have been out on vacation, but details have steadily trickled in over the last few weeks, as you may have seen in some of the video, and, well, we're going to be starting off this particular series of Dev Diaries by talking about the new economic system. Now, by that I don't mean the system on like a planet. I'm talking about how everything is packaged. Just for a little bit of cross-reference, how it worked in the past is that Stellaris consists of two systems. There is the core game code that you literally cannot get to unless you do a whole bunch of relatively illegal stuff, and the script. Now, the script consists completely in the folders of the game. These are your events, these are your race descriptions, the way ships are set up, etc. Now, due to this particular quote-unquote hybrid system, as they call it, a lot of the functionality of a lot of the economy was not accessible to modification. This includes the developers themselves and, of course, also the modding community. So this, for instance, let's say in the current system, as of 2.1, a ship will always cost minerals. Now, obviously, from a sci-fi point of view, this is a problem. Say, for instance, you want to play as a species that is completely biological, and you want your ships to cost food, or a derivative of food, which is then represented by as such. That's currently not possible within the system of the game. However, in 2.2, a new system is going to be introduced. Now, the system is defined by the following three. A new system should make it easy to add new resources. 2, a new system should be as open to modding as possible. And 3, the new system improves performance, because previously two parallel systems interacting with each other causes performance issues, which especially in a large galaxy causes serious problems. So this is a solution that the development team came up with. They're going to be ripping out the entire economy system that is in the game as of 2.1 and be replacing it with something called economic templates. Now, how do we define a single economic unit? What is an economic unit? It's very simple. Any single object within the game that can be owned by an empire and has an impact on the economy is an economic unit. Therefore, every single item that can be owned by an empire is going to be moved from being half hard code, half script, into a completely scriptable interface. An economic unit looks a little bit like this. Now, if you are not familiar with the scripting code or the scripting language that Paradox uses, it's relatively easy. The top is the resource. The category is, in this particular scenario, an army. Then there is a comment, which says normal empires pay for armies with minerals. If this empire is a hive empire, then it does not apply, and then there's a separate reference for that later. And then a single army will cost you 100 minerals. Hive minds pay for armies partially with food in this particular scenario, which means that there are 50% minerals and 50% food. And then there's a special modifier listed here if barbaric despoilers produce energy whilst this thing is on planet, while this army is on a planet. And this is then represented with owner has valid civic barbaric despoilers is at war with owner. If you're on planet, then resources generated 3, which is to represent looting. And then there's a bunch of other stuff as well regarding upkeep, whether or not it costs energy or food. And this is just a very simple example of how the code works, or at least the new scripting in the economic templates works. This basically means that a lot of flexibility is set up here. For instance, the fact that you can now pay potentially with food for a army, or have upkeep, or have a certain modifier when an thing is in space or out on the planet. And this doesn't really apply to armies, but to every single thing that can be owned by an empire and has impact on the economy, which in this particular case is cost for production and upkeep. Now, this particular new system opens up such a massive world of options because previously the developers and the modders in general were kind of stuck in a corner. Everything costed a certain amount of resources or a certain type of resources because that's how it was hard-coded within the game. You couldn't, for instance, say a population is, say, based on crystallines or something like that, and their upkeep is based on minerals. They cost a certain amount of minerals instead of food. Or you have a energy-based species that pays for their ships in energy because that's what they're made of. Or even a hive mind who can pay for everything in food because, well, hive minds don't really necessarily need minerals or energy for anything when it comes to trade, but yeah, there is obviously a couple of gameplay-related things there. But this goes a lot wider. For instance, the example that is given here, you can use food instead of minerals to build infrastructure. Or you could have ships that produce research whilst they're in certain systems. And this, once again, applies to the economic unit. If ship of certain class is in system Y, say a pulsar, generates 5 physics research. And this even applies to leaders as well. Say a leader is on a ship of this class, is inside of a pulsar, generates a certain amount of research, which is completely crazy, but it makes total sense. So the new system with the economic templates is going to completely blow open the role-playing setup, the diversity between empires, which is something that is severely lacking right now. An empire, for instance, that needs food, they'll go and claim as much food as they can. An empire that needs energy only will try to get as much energy if they can, or a mix match of both. The economic templates, like I said, is going to completely open up so many different things or opportunities in the future. And this is very similar to the 2.0 changes for hyperlanes. Now, obviously, in the past, we had warp, we had the wormhole generation, and it kind of really stifled the problem of tactics in space, which objectively, you can fly anywhere in space, objectively. But from a gameplay point of view, hyperlanes make perfect sense. Therefore, streamlining the game to do that, allowing for more opportunities to expand upon in the future. And this is very similar to that. Having these economic units is going to change everything. Now, one of the very first implementations of these economic unit is going to be changes to the resource system, specifically the advanced resources. In the past, we had various gases, we had various minerals, we had various crystallines, etc. As it looks like right now, strategic resources, as we know them, are going to be overhauled completely. They're going to be pulled out and replaced with something called, with the following at least, alloys, rare crystals, volatile motes, and exotic gases in those 4 categories. And all of those can be manufactured from basic resources. Therefore, something like a production chain could be generated on planet or can be found in rare planetary deposits and or both. Now, there is a couple of strategic resources that are staying. The 2 examples that are given here is dark matter and living metal, which provide unique benefits. But just to stick to these rare resources, they can be used to construct the more advanced things in the game. Let's say you have a ship. It requires an X amount of minerals, but also a certain amount of rare crystals. Or say you want to build a Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere requires a certain amount of volatile motes or minerals or energy, etc. And because of this, the top bar in the game is being adjusted. Now, a whole bunch of new resources are being added to Stellaris in 2.2. We have the precious goods, of course, being added. The industrial goods, at least that's what we think are going to be added. So a whole lot of new resources are going to be added to the game, and they need to be somewhere. And because of that, the top bar is going to be streamlined quite significantly. Right now, we've got physics, biological, and engineering technology, all 3 of them on the top bar. These are all going to be merged down into a single icon that you can hover over and then see what your individual income in technology is. The total amount of everything combined will be how much research you are generating a month, as you can see in this particular image. There's a whole bunch of other stuff there as well, such as star bases, economic income, planets stuff, I think maybe leaders as well, but a lot of this is very, very much a work in progress. But yeah, the economic templates are going to be a huge change within Stellaris, and I'm really looking forward to see what the developers have in mind with this particular system and what kind of doors they're about to kick in when it comes to generating new empires, the way ships are being built, the way planets are being handled, etc. Guin is going to be a very, very interesting time for Stellaris, and I'm really looking forward to it. There is a couple more things. Next week, we're going to be talking about planetary management, which is, of course, something that we've kind of covered through the Twitter teases that we've seen so far from Martin, so that's pretty exciting. But if you're interested in finding out more and want to discuss a lot of this stuff with me as well as 2,000 other friends, feel free to join the Discord, where you can find all the people that can talk about Stellaris with you. I'm in there as well if you want to have a chat or something like that. But yeah, the link is in the description below. But in the meantime, we're going to go and wrap it up here. Guin is coming. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and, as always, each other.